Hello and welcome to Foreign Desk on Benue Television. I am Susan Ayo. The headlines: Kenyan officials raise alarm over stolen toxic chemicals. UAE jails 57 Bangladeshis over protest. Plus, President Biden endorses Harris for White House race. And the news in details. Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni has warned protesters that they will be playing with fire if they press ahead with plans to stage an anti-corruption march to parliament on Tuesday. Young Ugandans have been organizing the march on social media to demand an end to corruption in government. They have been partly inspired by their counterparts in neighboring Kenya, who organized mass demonstrations that forced President William Ruto to drop plans to increase taxes. The protests have since transformed into calls for resignation. In a televised address, Mr. Museveni warned the Ugandan organizers that their planned protests would not be tolerated. He said the government is busy generating wealth and citizens want to truncate the process. He added that government would not allow it. Mr. Museveni is accused by his critics of ruling Uganda with an iron hand since taking power in 1986, but his supporters praise him for maintaining stability in the East African states. The president also accused some of the protest organizers of always working with foreigners to cause chaos in Uganda. Police had earlier announced that they had refused to give permission for the march to take place. One of the main protest leader, Louis Opolos, told newsmen that they would go ahead with the protest. He said they didn't need police permission to carry out a peaceful demonstration. He added that in their constitutional rights. The UK and the US government imposed sanctions on Uganda's parliamentary speaker, Anita Among, earlier this year after she was accused of corruption. She has denied any wrongdoing. The sanctions bar her from traveling to the UK and the US. The UK also said that it would impose an assets freeze on her. The UK has enforced similar sanctions on two government ministers who were sacked by Mr. Museveni after they were too accused of corruption. Mary Gotere Kututu and Agnes Nandutu had been charged in court over a scandal involving the theft of thousands of metal roofing sheets that were intended for vulnerable communities in the northern eastern Karamoja region. Both have denied the charges. Kenyan officials have appealed for help to find containers of highly toxic chemicals that were looted from an overturned lorry near the capital city, Nairobi. Health officials warned that sodium cyanide is dangerous and can kill if swallowed or inhaled, even in small amounts. They added that it also possesses a major risk to the environment. It is not uncommon in Kenya for trucks to be looted following a road accident. The government urged people to avoid the site, which is on the busy Nairobi-Nakuru highway, while the embassy advised its citizens to take a detour. The accident happened about 335 kilometers from Nairobi and it caused a spillage on the tarmac. It is unclear that caused the lorry or overturn. The authorities have also not released details about the conditions of the driver. The National Environmental Agency urged the public to immediately alert the nearest police station if they spot the containers. Kenya's health minister said sodium cyanide can contaminate soil and groundwater. It added that the chemicals can last in an environment for a long time and consequently accumulate into the food chain. According to U.S. National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, commercial uses of sodium cyanide includes fumigation, extracting gold and silver from ores and chemical manufacturing. It was reported that while some people carted away containers of the chemical, others came with jerry cans left without taking anything after realizing that the substance was of no use to them. U.S. President Joe Biden has ended his re-election campaign and endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris to succeed him as a Democratic candidate in an extraordinary decision that opens an already dramatic race for the White House. In a statement, Mr. Biden, 81, Sunday, said that it was the greatest honor to serve, but his withdrawal was in the best interest of his party and the country. The announcement crowns a rough period in U.S. politics, which began with his sometimes incoherent debate performance against Donald Trump on 27 June. Mr. Biden says he will remain president until January. Ms. Harris, 59, said that she was honored to be endorsed, adding that she would earn and win this nomination and unite the country against Trump. While Ms. Harris has been picking up endorsement from many big figures in the party, she is yet to be officially nominated, and that may not happen until the Democratic National Convention in August. Resurgent Trump, meanwhile, has pulled ahead in polling and was confirmed a Republican nominee at the party's convention in Milwaukee this week, 5 days after surviving an assassination attempt. In the wake of Mr. Biden's decision, he declared the president was not fit to run and is certainly not fit to serve. Other senior Republicans joined him in their criticism and called on Biden to leave the White House immediately, not just the Democratic candidacy. You're watching Foreign Desk on Benue Television. Let's take a quick break. Stay with us. Glad to have you back. Asian marketers fell Monday as Joe Biden's decision to drop out of the U.S. presidential race fueled fresh uncertainty, while traders appeared unmoved by China's decision to cut interest rates in the bid to boost its stuttering economy. After last weekend's assassination attempt on Donald Trump and the following Republican convention boosted bets that would win November's election, investors were trying to work out the ramifications of the latest news out of the White House. Tokyo, Shanghai, Sydney, Seoul, Singapore, Taipei, Mumbai, Wellington and Manila all fell, though Hong Kong relied thanks to healthy gains in China tech firms. London, Frankfurt and Paris have rose at the open. The developments out of Washington have overshadowed optimism that the Federal Reserve will cut interest rates as soon as September and possibly again before January. Biden on Sunday again into weeks of calls for him to step aside in the wake of poor debate performance that amplified questions about his health, and endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris to succeed him. The news was left traders wondering who will go ahead with Trump, while expected victory had lifted equities and the dollars of expectation for tax cuts and deregulations. Analysts said marketers would likely be volatile in the near term. Stocks in Asia fell Monday following losses on Wall Street and in Europe, where traders was dominated by a crash in global computer system, the result of a faulty update to an antivirus program that hits airports, airlines, trains, banks, shops, and even doctors' appointments. There was little reaction to news that China Central Bank and cuts borrowing costs as leaders look to kickstarts the world's number 2 economy, which has been hammered by the huge property crisis and weak consumer demand. Republican members of Congress are focusing on the role of the Secret Service as their frustration and anger grew over the agency's response to an attempt to assassinate presidential nominee Donald Trump. A House committee hearing will on Monday grill its director, Kimberly Chittle. It was reported that Trump sought additional security in the months leading up to the assassination attempt, but that the agency had turned down or been unable to fulfill the request due to staffing shortages. Agency spokesperson Anthony William said in a statement that in some instances where specific Secret Service specialized unit or resources were not provided, the agency made no modification. Eric Trump, the former president's son, said that he had been calling for beefed-up security throughout the campaign, as he had blamed the Biden administration and Ms. Chittle on Sunday for assassination attempt and argued that he had no accountability for the agency's action. Senators, too, are preparing to dig into the Secret Service. Republican Senator Ron Johnson told newsmen Sunday that he would soon realize information from his own reports investigating the attack. He said the report is intended to encourage people to come forward with more footage and first-hand accounts. He added that his investigation was non-bipartisan and would be conducted with Senator Richard Blumenthal, a Democrat from Connecticut. The Department of Homeland Security Inspector General is also looking at the attack, which occurred after the Secret Service identified the gunman as suspicious some 20 minutes before he opened fire, lawmakers revealed this weekend. Russia said Monday its forces had downed 75 Ukrainian drones overnight, with nearly 50 destroyed over the southern Rostov region. The Defense Ministry said a defense system intercepted 47 drones over Rostov, 17 over the Black and Azov Sea, and 11 in other areas, including the over frontier region of Belgorod. Regional authorities in the Black Sea town of Topaz in the Krasnodar region said debris from a downed drone sparked a fire in the petrol refinery. There was no casualties according to initial information. Russian almost daily announces the interception of Ukrainian drones, which Kyiv says are a response to Russian attacks aimed at military and civilian targets since Moscow launched its special military operations in February 2022. We'll take more news after this break. Don't go away. Glad to have you back on Foreign Desk. Protesters in Bangladesh have issued demands amid a calm in the violence that has filled the streets in recent days after the government backed down on quotas on hiring for government jobs. Student leaders said Monday that they plan to continue demonstrations despite the decision by the Supreme Court that the previous day scaling back the controversial job quota system that sparked the protest. A deadly government crackdown ahead of the rulings saw a reported 163 people killed, hundreds arrested and thousands injured. The demonstrators have demanded that the government release protest leaders, lift the military curfew, and reopen the universities, which have overshot since Wednesday. They said they would give the government 48 hours to meet the demands. Protesters were attacked by security forces as well as other students who back the ruling Awami League party last week as they launched their call against the quota system, which sought to reserve sought-after government jobs for relatives of war veterans and other groups. Although the court has largely annulled the quotas and the protests have demanded accountability for crackdown, including the resignation of ministers, they have also called for swift formalization of ruling. Law Minister Anu Sol Haq promised Sunday that the government would implement the changes to the legislations within days. After a call for nationwide shutdown on Monday by the protesters, soldiers continued to roam the streets and tanks were stationed across the streets of the capital, Dhaka. No more than fatalities or large-scale gathering had been reported by the late afternoon as a tentative calm persisted. Meanwhile, a court in the UAE has handed 57 Bangladeshis long prison term for holding protests in the Gulf state against their own country's government. 3 of the unnamed defendants were sentenced to life for inciting riots in several streets across the UAE on Friday, while 53 others were jailed for 10 years and one for 11 years. It cited their counter-appointed defense lawyer as arguing during Sunday's trial that the gatherings had no criminal intent and that the evidence was insufficient. Protests are effectively illegal in the UAE, where foreigners make up almost 90% of the population. Bangladeshis are the third largest expert group. In Bangladesh, more than 150 people have been killed and 500 arrested during days of violence sparked by student-led demonstrations against quotas on government jobs. The unrest is among the most serious challenges Sheikh Hasina has faced in 15 consecutive years. As the country's prime minister, there was no immediate comment from Bangladesh government, but it is in consult in the Dubai urged citizens to respect local laws in social media posts on Sunday. Earlier this month, courts in the UAE handed life sentences to 43 human rights defenders and political dissidents who were convicted of creating a terrorist organization. Human rights groups several criticised and mass trial, saying the organization had been an independent advocacy group. With that, we've come to the end of our bulletin this afternoon. Before we go, a recap of the top stories. Kenyan officials have raised alarm over stolen toxic chemicals. UAE jailed 57 Bangladeshis over protest against own country. Also told you that President Biden has endorsed Harris for White House race. Thanks for being part of Foreign Desk on Benue Television. I am Susan Ayo. Remain blessed.